Welcome back to Trauma Talks with Krystal Boothe, the podcast for people who have tried everything to heal their trauma and want real solutions so that they can get on with their lives. Whether you are working in the healing arts or in need of healing, this podcast is for you. Joining us today is Susan Chung, a licensed clinical social worker. She's fluent in Mandarin and English. Ms. Chung obtained her bachelor's degree of arts in psychology from the University of Southern California in Irvine in 2006. And then went on to receive her master's degree in public health from the University of Southern California in 2009 after working as an outreach coordinator to raise awareness for mental health awareness in the Asian community for the Oakland County area community. She decided to return to school once again to pursue her master's degree from the New York University in 2014 to become a clinician who can provide direct counseling services to people in need. Since her graduation in 2014, Ms. Chung has created two career paths for herself. One in working with survivors of violent crimes such as human trafficking, sex assault, and domestic violence as an advocate and a counselor. Another path is to focus on adolescents and young adults at various outpatient settings, providing psychotherapy. Currently, Ms. Chung is continuing to be dedicated to her fulfillment as a student counselor at the UNC Chapel, while also serving as an interim chair for the North Carolina Coalition Against Human Trafficking, a nonprofit organization that serves providers focus organizations. We are so honored to have Miss Susan Chung with us today to share her insights and expertise on the impact of early traumatic life experiences on the lives of survivors of sex trafficking. Please join me today in welcoming Miss Susan Chung to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me here. Yes,
No
I'm ready to
problem.
talk.
No problem, Miss Chung. I really
Yes.
appreciate you joining us. This is a topic that is really getting me so excited. You have no idea how much I love this topic. And I think it's so important for the community to learn how to help people who may be a part of sex trafficking, how to engage them, and also help them to begin to uh, close the gap in treatment, because there's a major gap in this area of treatment. And I'm so happy that you've taken the time to really educate yourself thoroughly and also engross yourself in this particular topic. And so I just wanted to ask you, what would you think? What do you want to tell me today that I don't already know about this topic, or that the normal everyday person would not know about this topic?
That's a very good question. Because sometimes I feel it's really hard because sometimes even the victim of human trafficking, they don't even know they're being trafficked. So that's it. So when you ask me that, what don't you know? That actually I don't know what you know, right? Because
Yeah. Well, I mean, what average person wouldn't know? You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Because the average person doesn't, you know what I mean? I want to speak to them. I want to kind of help them out,
yeah,
because I think that we can work with them as a team to begin to close the gap in this. The
yeah.
everyday person. Yeah.
I think that maybe a lot of time people has a lot of stereotype about this population. Maybe they think, oh, like they are not doing well in school, or they're like runaway kids, something like that, right? Which is a lot of time can be true. But then a lot of times they're more than that, right? Like maybe something was, I don't know, like school stuff. I feel like sometimes like maybe they're being bullied in school. They're looking for validation. They are looking for people liking them. I feel, especially nowadays, I feel social media has made things worse. Because there's so many comparison, and I think that has make it worse. For people seeking out, and also online has become so easy. So it's like easy to go online to seek for validation. Then you might get into those grooming process on somebody
I
else.
didn't think of that. Yeah. So that's like a telltale sign,
Yeah.
where you may not know that the person is being sex trafficked, but maybe that extra need for validation might be a little bit of a red alert or red
Yeah.
flag, I guess you could say, for
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you tell me more? Yes.
Yeah. So I think okay, I have a lot to say about this.
So I
Yeah.
know this topic is so grande. I mean,
Yeah.
we might have to have you back, Miss Chung. Don't worry. Just saying.
Yeah. I know. So to like full self disclaimer, because I usually work with clients, like how you mentioned, I speak Mandarin. So most of my clients are Mandarin speaker sex worker. So it can be different than the domestic sex, like sex trafficking victims, because a lot of my clients are international victims. They're like foreign national. They came here and they have no idea what happened, kind of thing. So maybe I hope that I can cover everything, that is, like kind of presented in the correct, accurate way. But but remind me of the question again. I feel like I
Well,
was like,
what's the early impact experiences
mm,
on the well-being of the victims of sex trafficking? Can you share your insight in how early childhood traumatic experiences contribute to the vulnerability? So you just mentioned one thing that was really a telltale red flag sign of vulnerability, and that's someone just wanting a lot of attention, wanting to be validated, constantly validated, and so that could be a telltale sign that maybe they've been trafficked or maybe they've been sexually abused or something like that.
so yes, thank you for the reminder. So a lot of time, I mean, that's one of the maybe typical way, was people who get into the sex trafficking, like situation, probably came from the childhood, like how they grew up, their childhood experience has so been so important to them. Kind of maybe the parents, the parent can be, maybe they're in the divorced family, the parent really didn't have enough time to talk to them. They don't have time to, or just working parent. I feel nowadays every parent are working parent. Most, okay, at least most of the parents I know, they are like both parents are working. They probably don't have enough time to, like really focus on the kid or like monitor the kid to maybe fulfill their need, right? So maybe when their need are not being fulfilled, they start looking out, like looking for their friends. Or if they're having a hard time having friends, they're looking out for social media, those like internet stuff. I think that has been kind of one of the issue that we have. And
You just labeled a major gap. So maybe them not getting enough attention from their parents, and they're going on to try to get more attention from their you know your peer groups or whatever, and then go continue. This is really really helpful. I think this will be really good for people to know.
yeah, and I feel middle school. Yeah, I used to work in the hospital. Mostly, I serve with middle school kids, so I feel they are the most interesting, but also the most challenging population, because that's the time when they are developing their social skills, they're developing their identities. I think that's so important, right? So I think middle school kids also is very easy to be influenced or impacted by how other people see them. So that's kind of when they will start, going to the grooming process, kind of meeting people who are older than them, but maybe not too much older. I have a client maybe meeting, maybe that she was 14, maybe. I just kind of provide a person who
Yeah,
is not.
give me a real time story. I want to hear some of the good stories.
Well,
I know
because
you got some good
HIPAA,
stories, Miss Chung.
yes, I want to protect their identity. So, but then
Yeah.
let's pretend this is 14 years old middle school
Yeah,
kid.
let's just
Yeah,
no names involved, but
yeah,
just
yeah,
give me a name. I mean,
yeah.
give me a story. Yes,
So
ma'am.
maybe a 14-year-old kid looking,
Mhm.
the parent are really busy working in the immigrant family. They really have no time for her. And also the parents are not doing well. Like meaning that they have a lot of marital issues, a lot of fighting going on, and a lot of also sibling rivalry. I feel that's something I see very common.
It's
Yeah,
so common what
it's
you're
so common.
saying.
It's
Oh my
true.
god.
So like
It's true.
maybe the younger sibling or the older sibling have more attention or doing better in school. For them, they're looking for some validation. So maybe outside will work. So sometimes it can be very confusing because the groomer doesn't have to be super old. Can be like college age kid, like 20 years old. So if you don't feel that like, oh, you have such an age gap, like you're 14, this guy is 19. You feel okay, it's 5 years apart, just an older, more mature person, but you don't really know what you're getting yourself into.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's kind of one of the things I see it in this
So what you're
pattern.
saying, from what I'm hearing you say, Miss Chung, you're saying that the gap is in the family.
Yes. I feel family has a
Which
lot
is
of things
kinda
to do.
scary because you're thinking like, "Oh, this is happening somewhere else, and, yeah, we're doing, what we're supposed to be doing," but you're also saying that the gap is also in maybe the parents arguing and having some sort of discord in the family, and then by being so preoccupied with that, possibly then the child is then looking for that validation because they're not getting it from their parents, so they now look to, you know, somewhere else to get it, such as peer groups and eventually maybe even an older male or female.
Yeah. Yes. Also, how to include that. It can be female too.
Yeah, it could be female.
Yeah. And then I have heard, I have example of the female became friend with them,
Oh,
first,
really?
and then eventually introduce them to some other people, maybe males or other people. That can be a trend as well because it's easier to looking for girlfriend. Like you just want another friends. So, but you have no idea that actually have been more like almost like a trap, or like some kind of ring, some kind of organized crime. So it is very difficult.
Tell
Yeah.
me, do you have any stories, Miss Chung? Come on. I know you got some stories. Yeah. Don't hold back. Let us know. You have any cases that you could give us like a little case study of something that happened so that we can be able to identify this when because like you said in your bio, it's really important to bring awareness to the community regarding this matter. And this is our opportunity to bring some awareness to this. So that the parents can say, wait a minute, I'm having a lot of fights, with my spouse, and I'm engaging with that and trying to fix my relationship. And then my kid is kind of getting left to the side a little bit. And then as a result, then the kind of the snowball effect happens. And then once they're out there in the community, what does that look like? Could you tell me that?
Yeah. I mean, just maybe like there will be, I don't know. I feel that in middle school and high school, you just try to be cool, right? So like sometimes those older guys, they will like come to pick you up with a car in school.
Ah, yeah.
That looks cool, right?
Money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that make you look cool. So you think you're cool. And then so you'll go along with that, kind of like,
Yes, right.
and then but again, they are not aware the process of grooming. So in the human trafficking world, like in our definition, in the like, I think it's United Nations definition or like America's law definition, if you are engaged in some kind of unconsensual sex or I don't. Maybe I should get back to that with you about that. There's some kind of laws, a regulation about that. Like if you are engaging in some kind of sex, or some kind of those type of activity, you already automatically become a victim of human trafficking. So sometimes that's why they're not aware that they're being victim of human trafficking. They just, oh, I just having sex with somebody. What's the big deal out of that? That's nothing. But it actually it almost make you qualify to become a victim of human trafficking.
They don't even know what they're doing actually qualifies as they're being sex trafficked, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes,
Oh, that's scary.
yes. So that's why I have a lot of clients who are actually being qualified trafficking, human trafficking victims. They have no idea until I had to kind of teach them what human trafficking means. They're like,
That
oh,
makes me want to cry, Miss Chung,
mm,
honestly. But go
mm.
ahead. That makes me want to cry. They have no idea that they're even being trafficked. And then, do they have any idea that some money is being exchanged? Are they actually getting the money in their hands? What's happening here?
Sometimes they get money too. So that's why they feel this is not maybe not trafficking, right? So let's say you are underage soliciting sex, like you're looking, so you got money, so you feel that you're not being trafficked. But then actually under the laws, you're still a victim of human trafficking. You're not supposed to engage in any type of commercial sex underage. What some of the I think it depends on the different state. Some of the state you're I think they try to legalize sex work as an adult. So maybe, but some of the states like doesn't really matter what age are you, you're not
You're not
qualified.
supposed to be doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, if you because a lot of these girls that are being trafficked, not all, but a lot of these girls that are being trafficked are underage. I
Yes,
hear you.
and
Yeah.
then sorry, I do got too excited. And then sometimes they'll introduce a drug, right? That can be a way of controlling them to wanting to continue this pattern, or they have to continue to making money so they can be in
That's
that kind
right.
of situation. So it is very sad and it's very difficult to challenging to get out of that situation once you're
So they
hooked.
kinda draw them in with a little bit of money first, and
Mhm.
then then once they get them into the situation, and I'm hearing what you're saying, then they're having sex and they're getting money. So they're like, oh, I'm having sex and I'm getting money. But
Mhm.
they probably, maybe they're not getting all the money. I mean,
Mhm.
who's getting some of this money?
Of course, the pimp, the person who
Right. That's
organized
what
this
I
for.
thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
And so speaking of that, so this kind of off topic, but kind of similar to a topic. So it I can share with a case because that was actually with that client permission in the past that he actually went to interview with that. So it's a thing kind of a little off topic, but he was telling me a lot of peer pressure from middle school, right? Like you had to look cool, had to dress up really cool. So then that he started like engaging in like selling drugs and stuff like that. So to get the money. So kind of back to our human trafficking situations, our client, maybe our female client, that's having sex, get the money. It's kind of a way for them to get the income, right? So they can buy stuff that they want, the cool stuff that they want. So that can be a pattern because maybe the parent either they're very strict that they don't give them any allowance, or our client just our victim just really looking for something, maybe looking so much social media like really cool like influencer stuff.
Ah, yeah, they wanna keep up with the, like they say, keep up with the Kardashians,
Yes, kind of like
so
that,
to
like
speak.
kind of like the
Yeah, what
stuff.
they're wearing, what they're doing.
Yeah, stuff like
No
that.
way you can keep up with that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
then so they had to do stuff to get those money,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
like one of my clients told me, oh, I want to buy this $400, I don't know, off white.
That's what I'm saying.
I
That's
feel
crazy. $400?
yeah, as a middle school kid, I was like, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Then he was like, well,
Mhm.
I had to, be the middle person to deliver drug to another person. That's how he got the money. So it is kind of it's crazy.
Yeah. Did he
Yeah.
get trafficked too?
No, but that's why I said kind of
Okay.
off topic, like, but I kind of just find a correlation between
No, no,
these
no, but
two.
yeah, see,
Yeah.
but it's the same thing, like you're saying, and I'm glad you mentioned males because a lot of the men, they don't realize that they're being even not necessarily sex trafficked, but trafficked to sell drugs. So, they go out on the corner and they kind of do that, sell the drugs or whatever, but they're being trafficked, but it's not necessarily sex involved. But they know that, okay, when these guys aren't gonna get any time for what they're doing, so we'll put them out on the street because you're talking about adolescents too. They'll put the young one out there because the young one isn't going to get like a life sentence in jail or something. They'll probably get probation, or they might even go to the juvie or something like that, and then they don't realize that, yeah, this is still building up a record. It's still building up a criminal record on them.
Yes, they're easily to be manipulated, right? Because they're younger, and then they're still developing their brain, right? They're not fully developed until 25, right? So
Thank you. I was going
yeah,
to say 25.
I had to
Yes.
tell my client each time, like, that sometimes you feel very impulsive. It's okay because our brain doesn't supposed to develop fully until 25 years old. So, like trying to help them to normalize why, sometimes they feel really guilty for like their decision, what they did. But how to kind of provide some kind of psychoeducation to help them to understand this is kind of part of the process. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Wow. So what are some of the common traumatic experiences that these sex trafficked ladies or men, because I don't really want us to put this in a particular sex because it could happen even to people who are all types of marginalized populations and all types of sexes and genders, male or female genders or whatever. Yeah.
So are you talking about that? What kind of traumatic experience before?
Yeah, what are they, what when they're coming in and you're doing the treatment with them, what are you actually treating them for? What specifically, how are you doing the treatment for them? Once you get them in, we kind of identify how they're getting groomed and we're brought into this and the ways in which the gaps in their family and all of that. So now let's kind of go a little further. Let's let the help the listener a little bit with what are they now? What are we going to be needing to treat them for?
It's so interesting because sometimes I thought it must be groomer, right? Or the whole trafficking experience. It's actually all across my clients. Like my client who are in the 50s, they told me the same thing. So it's all back to their childhood or their parents. So I have this clients and and clients, and so I mean he of course the person was really upset with her grooming or trafficking experience, but she told me what break her heart the most, made her the most upset is that her parent kicked her out of the house. They didn't believe her. They're like, it's your fault. But she grew up in such a traumatic, like problematic family already. Like both her parents had mental health issue, so they were never there for her already. So that's how that's kind of how she started looking for something, and then she got caught right at this whole thing. But the parent blamed that on her, like it's all your fault.
There you go, victim blaming.
Yes, and
Mm-hmm.
so that was actually more traumatic to her than the guy that group, she was involved with. So,
Ah.
and then also with my older client, so I,
So you're doing treatment. So now at this point, you're doing treatment to help her with being blamed as the victim. How painful.
it is very
On top of
painful.
already being trafficked and
Yeah.
manipulated. Yeah.
So the trauma is actually very is more deeper than just being trafficked. The trauma is actually kind of start from childhood. How that all started until this point.
The parents.
Yes. Yeah. So it is very unfortunate. Yeah.
It is very unfortunate. Wow, wow. And so is there a particular modality that you would recommend if we're talking to a clinician out there who wants to start working with sex trafficking victims and they really don't know, how they're going to be able to do that? Um, what would you recommend them how to work with them? You know,
Yeah. A lot of
modalities up and otherwise. Mhm.
I think one of the first thing I always do is strength space, like therapy, because a lot of time that is lower self esteem. I think that also kind of is kind of the presenting case. Like they had lower self worth, that's why they're looking for validation, and that's kind of how that get into this situation. So I'm really trying to empower them to get back to that, to identify their strengths. Like the client I told you about, she actually became very successful in her career life, but then the trauma from that childhood from the parent not validating her was still traumatizing. So that's why I had to do a lot of strength space to kind of help her to accept who she is and all the strength that she got her so far. And then okay, so after she started having that more self, like be able to raise a little bit more about her self esteem, then I'm really into like psychodynamics, so I'll go all the way back to the past to kind of help her to heal from this, the trauma or kind of help her to a different perspective on what really happened to her in her childhood.
So self-esteem is I didn't even think of that, but that's right. You get right on in there and start working with them on the self-esteem because you're going to probably get the most bang for your buck there focusing on that. Yeah. And then the fact that these parents are narcissists. I mean, this is narcissistic parenting. When you talk about invalidation, that's a narcissistic trait. So you're basically helping them heal narcissistic wounds by working with them on their self-esteem, which is what's the main thing that's damaged in narcissistic abuse.
I think that's why it's so powerful to really help them to see themselves as a person, like kind of differentiate it from their parents. Like what their parents say about you is not really who you are. You guys are different beings. They have it, and then also kind of help them to sometimes I help them to accept the parent as the way they are. Like they are also flawed, damaged individuals, and that's why there's a lot of projection toward you. Like invalidate you, ignore you, or just being abusive to you. So
Because if they start to try to change the parent, then they get into codependency. Now they're in there trying to fix the parent, and the parent's a narcissist. That's that chance of that happening. I mean, you're not going to change your parent. Parents are who they are. Yeah, unfortunately, fortunately, I mean, sometimes parents will go back and will make some changes and they'll start to work on themselves. But ideally, when you're talking about a narcissistic parent, that's not a parent that has that's the way their brain is set up, the way that they think. And so then some kids will try and go fix those parents and then they become codependent and they're this people pleasing, fixing parent type person on top of having trauma.
it's like almost like intergenerational trauma, right? That we're
It
trying to
is
break.
intergenerational.
Because
Yeah.
usually the parent has some other stuff from their childhood that was never dealt with, and that's why they brought into their next generation, and it's just kind of ongoing. So I
That's
think
right.
my job is really help them to how can we break out that cycle? Like can we step off on
I
that
love that.
cycle? But be
I
able to
love that,
see
Miss
that
John.
cycle like kind of like as like a third person to
Hmm.
kind of be able to understand what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing what you're doing. Oh my God. This is such a great conversation. Oh my God. And so you told us about some patterns and things like that that you've seen in them, and you talked about, let's talk about how does these early trauma shape the mental health and emotional well-being um of the of them when they start to become an adult. So how does this shape them? I mean, now that we're moving them through the process. Now they worked on their self-esteem some. What how does this shape them as a person? These experiences, because they become an adult one day. Hmm.
Yeah. I think one of my client came in to me, was like, I'm a horrible person. I was like, wait, why do you think you're a horrible person? She's like, because I always been told I'm a horrible person.
Oh
So
man, you're gonna make me cry, Miss Chung. Stop it.
at all. So college, yeah, I work in college counseling, but then over time, I can see her like use those bad experience, that traumatic experience, into something like empower herself to something positive. So now she's really engaged in our group therapy, and she's so out of backward, like backtrack that she also said, I'm a horrible person. I'm really bad with, like, I have such a high social anxiety because I just feel I'm not good enough to be with anybody. So that's why I told her, hey, I think maybe you should, of course, engage in individual therapy, but maybe in the group therapy too. But I want you to learn how to socialize with other people, have been supported, and and the group therapy is very with a trans trans therapist, they're able to like contain the space, right? So you won't be I think so that so she had been feel supported, in that group therapy space because nobody's judging her. Where the facilitator will make sure that this is not a judgmental place.
That was smart to get her to go in the group, because a lot of people don't realize that sometimes you need to do something where you're physically actually breaking some of those like patterns and stuff, and just sometimes just talking to the therapist isn't enough. You need to actually go in and apply those things right away.
And with your
Yeah,
peers, that's
yeah,
the whole thing,
with
right?
your
Like,
peers.
yeah,
Exactly.
because they want to be validated by the peers. So this that if they're seeing somebody like me who's older, like it's someone talking to an aunt, is not really helping. But if you're talking to their peers, they're getting supported by their peers. They realize, oh, I actually not that bad person that you thought about.
That's right.
Really, it was really healing for that particular person.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And so I want to kind of shift gears a little bit here in our conversation, and I kind of want to talk about the society. And I really want to talk about society because I think that they can be a better help in this sort of things, and I believe that they need to be informed as to how to help. Because we talked about the family system, and the family system being broken, and that leading to the child being more vulnerable for these kinds of things to happen, and a missed need, and being neglected, and all those kinds of things, and then falling into low self-esteem, and so even some cases it gets as far as self-hatred. I know I've think I met a couple of those, and where they get as far as self-hatred, and then now you're going to break that whole system down now and bring it all the way back to the point where now you're helping them repair their self-esteem, and then you're helping them reintegrate into the community and reintegrate specifically into their peer groups. And now I wanted to kind of talk about, like, okay, how do we get the community involved, because the community can really help us if they know what to do and how to see things when they're popping up on, you know, even online and in their face. Maybe even the young person is coming in to get a job, or you know what I mean, and realize that this person has trauma, or this person is popping up in on social media, and they're saying things and they're doing things, and then they go and they say things on social media to that person that reinforces the breakdown of our system. What can the community do? What do you think the community could do?
That's a good question and hard question. Is that my ideal wish is that people just can be less judgmental. That you don't really know
Okay,
who
that's a
you
start.
are. Yeah, you don't even know who you are talking to. Like you don't even know their story. Though. Yeah, so I feel more education on what human trafficking means. Human trafficking is not something that happened like 1,000 years, like from like years ago, or something not from. It's human trafficking is not like somewhere else. It's actually here. There was a video. If I can find it, it's really about. I think it's in Michigan State, and there's a lot of picture of a young kid. Right, I was looking at the videos. Okay, what is this about? Like, there's a lot of picture of normal kids, one after another. So after that, they will say, "Oh, this is all the victim of human trafficking." I was like, shocking, because you will never be able to tell. Like the way they look, the way they act, like their life looks normal. Like you, or even the client I've been engaged with, that you won't be able to tell. So just that's kind of just become like it really make me humble, because you almost on the street you don't even know who they are. The people walk by, you
They
don't
don't
know
have
that.
a tag on their head or
Yeah,
anything,
they don't have they have life. Just kind of at least recognize everybody has different story, different lives. Then I hope that we can be less judgmental and be a
less
little
judgmental.
kinder to them,
A little
because
kinder.
a lot of time our client with trauma, they might present it in a way that is not really likable. They can be kind of mean, or they're kind of be really guarded, like really not friendly. So you kind of just like cut them out. Oh, that person is not a good person. But then you don't really know their story, why the way they are. So that's kind of my hope. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. Just to kind of, I think what you're saying is to be more empathetic
Hmm.
of these
Pretty
people
much.
and what
Yeah.
they may have gone through and why they're going through their healing process, and they're going through a new period of self-discovery, and working with people from that point of understanding that. And I really love that. Is there anything that you think that you wanted to just a burn, anything you wanted to tell the world that you really wanted to say to them about this particular topic? What would be that burning
Well, I
thing
think
that you just was like, one day I want to tell them this. If I ever get an opportunity to tell the world something, what would that be about this topic that we're talking about today?
yeah, you know how when you first introduced me, I had these two parallel career paths.
Yes,
One of the
ma'am.
reasons why I'm so passionate with children as well, human trafficking and children, because children is so important. Like their life before they are going to college, I feel their life before middle school are so crucial. So I just hope that we can pay more attention to our young generation, our young kids. They need a lot of care. I feel their life would be so much easier if they have a really good, solid childhood
Yes,
experience. You know,
that's right.
yeah. So that's kind of what I want to say.
Yeah. So letting the community know, hey, this is a generation. I totally know what you're talking about. That's what I did when I created Wings of the Future private practice. It was for marginalized families and for children. It's like the children are our future. You know what I mean? That's why I named it Wings of the Future, because I was like, the future. You guys are wondering what the future is. This is the future.
Yes, this
Come
is the
on,
future.
get it together here.
I know, and then just think about that. Like life will be, the society will be much easier if those people grow up to be a more mental stable
You,
adult.
you
All
want
right? Yeah.
You want to
Anyway,
have, you're I know you're raising good kids over there and everything, and then you want your good kid to have some other good kids out there in the world that they can actually engage with and have, maybe even marriage or relationships with or whatever. So you want that for your kids, and you want that for other kids and other families. So I really, really appreciate you today, Miss Chung. You've been such a delight. I love to, anytime you want to come back on, just shoot me an email. I'm telling you, because this topic right here, and when it comes to kids, and that was my first population working with. I worked with the people who are locked up in the prison. I worked with the adolescents in the juvenile correctional facilities, and then I specifically work with them on trauma. So I always want to be able to talk about how we can get this particular age group help early, because that early intervention is so important. And a lot of these kids can, like we said, with the one client that you talked about, she turned her life around, and she actually was able to get her self-esteem back on track again and build her relationships back again, which is the foundation of most people's lives, their relationships.
it is.
So
It is. Yes.
relationship at work, relationship at school,
Yeah.
relationship, it's all relationships. So if they have a poor relationship with themselves, then of course they're going to have a poor relationship with what?
Everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Poor marriages, and then they're not going to have a good relationship with their kids. They're going to start the process over and over again. So we are breaking the cycle, ladies. So we are, yay! Breaking
Thank
the cycle, ladies. So I'm
Yes.
so happy to have met you. I'm so happy to have had you on. I'm so happy you shared your story. Where is the best place that they can connect with you, Susan, with what you've been doing and everything? What's a good address or phone number or website that you might have?
Yes, I do have a website because I do have my own private practice, which I serve anyone from my youngest client right now is a high school kid all the way to 40 years old. So it's kind of like young adult, emerging adult type of situation. So yeah, I do have a website. So it's Susan Chung LCSW.com. So it's my name was
So Susan Chung, LCSW.com.
yeah,
Very easy, very
very easy.
simple. Love
Yes,
it.
yes,
Yes.
yes. So very simple to find me.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
no
And
problem.
so do you want to give them a phone number that they could call, or what do you think?
Yes, I can. I can. I have email. Usually, I do. I
Email
use.
is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Again, it's also very easy. It's
Mhm.
Susan at susanchunglcsw.com.
Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Okay. So with that being said, great to have met you. Great to have
Yes, thank you.
shared some time with you today and got to know some of the better ways that we can kind of engage this whole sex trafficking issue and start to make an impact community wise, family wise, individual wise. So thank you. I really appreciate all of your help today.
I appreciate you for having me here.